We know, and a lot of people that are in business, they've got to realise this, is that the US and the UK, we've had our best years. I'm not saying that we're going to stop making money, because of course these economies are in decline. And even if you look at the population, if you look at, people are having less children, people are getting older, the growth is in places like, China, the Far East, India, Brazil. These are the next countries that will have the glory. It's not going to be the States. It's not going to be the UK.
Vince, would you say that these new emerging markets are something that you're an expert in?
Absolutely. Well, these are markets that I've learned, because again, going back to what I was saying about trends, you follow the money. You look where the smart money's going. You look where what's going on. And going back a few years ago, a big trade for me, and I still trade quite heavily, is commodities. And I'd read up a lot about commodities, and I'd read up about a chap called Jim Rogers, who was the partner of George Soros, and I had the fortune of meeting him and he also actually spoke at a couple of my seminars a few years ago, and we became quite close friends. And he was going on about what happened in the 1980s about commodities, and I saw the same sort of trends emerging again. Just as simple example, things like coffee prices. Coffee was basically bombed out. Whilst coffee was being drunk in the UK and the US, places like China and Japan, coffee really wasn't being drunk. But now these new markets, they also start to use more coffee, they start to use more sugar, and obviously all the raw materials. So that's been a huge trend, and it still is. It's still a market that people can get involved in, is commodities.
Well, Vince, I've been privy to see some of these success stories that have come out from people that have followed your system to the letter. How long has it taken you to perfect this system to get results like this?
It's about 10 years of a lot of hard work and tinkering and playing around. And I'd say for the last 2 years, not many major changes. If it's not broken,
don't fix it.
Why try and fix it?
Absolutely.
So you can tinker around sometimes with a winning system, and you can make it a losing system. So for the last 2 years, it's roughly stayed about the same. But I'd say about 10 years in development to get where we're up to now in total.
If somebody's listening to this now and their question is, well, hold on a minute, how did you test your system? Did you use your own money on it? What's your answer to that?
It's the only way, Neil. It's all very well using software and hypotheticals. I've seen hedge funds which have had fantastic results on paper, or they've had great results, and then within about a year they've blown up and lost all their money. Nothing beats using real money. And yes, I've always put my own money on the line. The system that I teach people is exactly the same. If you look at some of the websites, you'll see my statements, you'll see my trades. It's not a case of saying I teach you one thing and then I go and do something else. So you've got to put your own money on the line.
I noticed, Vince, that the Financial Services Authority did change some regulations to trading last year. Is that still in place?
Yeah, it was short selling. What happened was, so listeners are quite clear here, we make money from things going down as well as up. Traditionally, most people, they're conditioned in that you buy low and sell high.
Yes.
Well, that's all very great, but as a professional trader, we make money by basically selling something and then we can buy it back, which is called short selling. Now, last year, we're making some considerable amounts of money by basically shorting the banks, the various banks. Then the FSA came in with a rule and said that no, you can't short banks anymore. That's now gone. You can short banks again. So it was a temporary rule which they were trying to stabilize the markets a little bit. Now, we found ways around that, and the easiest way that we could actually short the index, which a lot of people in the UK, things like the FTSE 100, which has a lot of bank shares in it. So although we didn't directly carry on shorting the banks because we couldn't, we were locked out, we could actually sell the index, which gave us a similar sort of result. So that's how we did that. But that's gone now, Neil. You can short banks in the UK if you wish.
Talking of 2008, you just hear about people losing money hand over fist. How was 2008 for you?
This is what you got to remember. When somebody says they've lost money, somebody else made money. Okay, there's always a writer, and there's always a buyer, always a seller. So if Neil Bentley thinks that Barclays is going to go up, there's somebody on the other side who thinks Barclays is going to go down. That's the the key to markets is it sounds very, very simple, but that really is the truth. So if you hear about all these hedge funds or pension funds that have lost money, there was another bunch who made money. Now, 2008, it was a glorious year for me. It was a year of two halves. The first half was I was long a lot of commodity markets. The second half was basically selling short. So I was making money on things going down. But yeah, it was a very, very good year.
So that proves that you were seriously looking at the markets and adapting to exactly what was happening.
Exactly, back to what we were saying about trends, and this is what we can use. We can use charts and graphs. You know, it's pointless me saying, oh, I think Barclays or another company is a great company when the trend is not telling me that. You know, I have to go with what is it. The price is the ultimate cleaner. It's just so pure and so clean. It's not what a guy on TV says or the Prime Minister's telling you everything's great with the British pound. Well, if the price is weakening, that's telling me that that's what's going on, and that's what I was doing. I was literally following these trends, and the trend said, oh, there's trouble, and that's, you know, you want to get out of these or then start making money from them going short, you know, going down.
Well, 2008 is gone, 2009 is here. I don't know if you're going to tell us here at the studio and our listeners what your predictions are going to be for 2009, but it's a good question to ask, Vince.
Yeah, okay. Well, a lot of the time I don't actually predict. What I do, I follow. So I look at what's going on. And for now, what's going on? Commodities are certainly still in a very, very strong market, and I think that's going to carry on for some years, especially things like agriculture. So we're talking about wheat, we're talking about corn, we're talking about soybeans. So that continues. Oil was sold off aggressively last year, but that's starting to come back again now. Again, what the trend seems to be at the moment is some of these emerging markets, they're starting to stockpile commodities. So what they're doing, because people like China, they have a huge amount of US dollars, rather than hold on to those dollars because they can see the dollar is weakening, they're buying things with it. And their view is, well, okay, we don't need all this oil, but it's better that we buy it in now, and then we've got reserves. So we're seeing that. And also, you know, I make things on things going up as well in the last few months. I've actually bought bank shares, which is something that if somebody said to me, you know, a while back, would I buy bank shares? I'd say no way. But they'd got to such a level where, you know, it was a case of, well, you had very, very little to lose.
Yes.
The other thing you had to remember is you had the government helping these banks, so technically it was a bit of a free handout. I will say, though, right now I'm actually out of those bank shares at the moment, so I profited from quite a good rise in banks. But the next sort of things that I'm looking at is mining shares at the moment, a lot of gold mining stocks, and in areas Canada, a lot of things in Canada and Brazil, I'm very bullish on.
Sorry, I'm just writing that down, just in case I need to do any trades later this year. Can you offer any tips to anybody interested in spread betting? So, I want to get into it. I want to learn exactly what you've learned. You've perfected this system. You have this core system. You've been through all these amazing experiences. You've learned from the best. How can I find out from you exactly how to get into this business? Yeah,
well, the great place to start is with making money from financial spread trading, which is my starter course. You know, that's the easiest way to put it. It's a workbook. It's about 160 pages. It's not written in university gobbledygook speak or you don't need a degree in mathematics. It's been written very simple in a me-to-you style.
So it's not jargonese. So it's something that I can pick up and I can read.
It's something you can pick up. You know, Neil, I've got people from all over the world. In fact, I've got customers from 109 countries. So many of my customers, English is their second language. So I always have to think about that when I'm writing things. So I don't use big words. One, because I'm not that sort of person. I'm very down to earth. But also, I've got to think that, you know, more and more of my customers, English is their second language. So it's written, you know, in easy to understand style. There's 2 DVDs that come with the course as well. So it's me, you know, speaking to you, and you can see what I'm doing. Because a lot of people find it much easier to watch a DVD, which you can watch on your computer as well as the workbook. There's an internet site which you get access